I had this amazing experience when I was about 20, driving through a cornfield in Iowa with a bunch of people in the car with me. I was driving down this highway in this cornfield and I heard a voice boom, and the voice said, "Dance." And I turned around to look in the people in the car and see if my aunt or the guy in the back seat had said anything. And then suddenly I heard the voice again with my name, Dance, Robert. I got the message right away, dance.
Robert Davidson created his role as Meister Eckhart in Airborne Meister Eckhart, here performed with the Orts Theater of Dance. The grandson of a minister, a composer, ethnomusicologist, and modern dancer who studied with John Cage and Merce Cunningham, Robert Davidson was attracted to the mystic legacy of 13th century Christian Meister Eckhart. For Robert Davidson, the life and words of Meister Eckhart harmonized well with movement on the single point trapeze.
As I left the more traditional modern dance and started experimenting with trapezes, I was about 38 or 39. And I noticed that the Goethe Institute had opened in town and that they were giving grants to lots of people. And I had an interest in German language and some interest and lots of experience singing in German. And I went to the head of the institute and said, I'd like some money. And he said, "Well, darling, you have to pick a German subject." And I said, "Well, I think I've got one. It's about this dude, Meister Eckhart, Johannes Eckhart, who was condemned and died under the condemnation of heresy. He was condemned twice. He defended himself successfully in front of the Pope, but then, for whatever political reasons, he was condemned a second time, and he died before the condemnation could be lifted. He just sounded like my kind of guy. Politically, he did. But he really sounded like my kind of guy because he was a Western mystic. He happened to be German.
Since the first production in 1986, Robert Davidson has appeared in some 300 performances of Airborne Meister Eckhart.
I tend never to work with the trapeze as a trapeze. The trapeze has to stand for something else. And I look for as many metaphors to tell the dancers about as possible. In this world, when the bars are under the trapeze, the triangles look like spires. They look like medieval spires. So there's this church-like look to the traps. Also, in ancient tradition, there's the notion that the triangle in certain cultures is the eye of God. So there's this notion that as you approach the trapeze, as you climb into the trapeze, you're moving closer and closer to the eye of God. And there's this marvelous line by Eckhart that we actually use: "The eye through which I see God is the same eye through which God sees me."
In Airborne Meister Eckhart, Robert Davidson created a theatrical event, complete with a narrator quoting Meister Eckhart's metaphysics, a chorus, and large cast.
Kristen, shall I put this over here?
Our camera recorded a stripped-down version in rehearsal, but this dance of the faithful, women from Eckhart's community of begins and beguards, gives a sense of the full production.
So, Emery, at the end of this, we all fall down. Yeah. Just take out all the spots.
Annie Bunker, Ort's artistic director, presents Airborne Meister Eckhart to Tucson for the second time by popular demand. Here, Annie, Beth Braun, and Nicole Buffan perform the dance of the Inclusa. The Inclusa were women who endured voluntary confinement to atone for the loss of their men in the Crusades. It is a dark interpretation of a spiritual practice that Meister Eckhart opposed. Robert Davidson's duet with Charles Thompson is part of a dance called Night Dreams. It depicts what a chaste community's sleeping visions might look like. It is erotic, yet clean, aligned with Meister Eckhart's teaching, which never separated human reality from spiritual experience.
Many of us, in the process of the piece, will start crying. Don't know why exactly, whether it just feels so good or there's just no other way exactly to let the transcendent, ineffable thing out, except that as you're doing what you're doing, you just let the tears run and flow.